Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. We're just arriving at the job site. These are some townhouses, really tightly knit, fit together. And they got kind of a common driveway here and walkway to get around to the patios, front doors, and stuff. But we got to come through that area with the mini skidster, the 3 foot wide. All this is coming out, these raised planters, the patio, brick, basically this entire backyard. And you can see they got a channel drain in front of those French doors. Well, the waters actually went into those French doors before that channel drain was there. And you can see the area drain in the brick ribbon. That was another add-on to capture water, because what happened is this raised planter bed got added on top of the existing patio, and it prevented the water from draining out. Then the drains came in. And, drains sometimes, if you don't really manage them a lot and look for clogs on the grates, they can back up. And that's what's happened here on a few occasions. So all this is coming out. We're gonna eliminate all the drains. We're just gonna do a free, straight slope on the concrete out and underneath the wood fence. The raised planter came out pretty easily with this tractor because most of it was hollow cells. Some of them had rebar driven into the dirt, but there wasn't really much concrete in the cell still, so it all came out. Now I can't push up against that wood fence too much, otherwise I'll just push the fence right over. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch buckets out. At some point I'm gonna switch over to the hoe attachment and start pulling that block and dirt away from the wood fence. And that's a tight squeeze getting through there. It's only a 3 foot walkway that I'm driving in and out on, and I'm trying to make 90-degree corners with hedges that are 4 feet tall without damaging anything. So here's the hoe attachment. I'm just pulling everything off of the fence, generating a pile in the middle. Then I can switch buckets back to do some more scooping. Now the fencing that got removed here, it's not gonna go back in. What's gonna go in now is a gate. We're gonna rebuild a little bit of the fencing, maybe 18 inches both sides, and then have a gate centered. And we're gonna extend a walkway to that common walkway as well. That way you can just walk out the back patio, hit the if you're gonna walk your dog or whatever, you just walk right on out. Here's where that new piece of concrete's gonna go, joining the common area. Now there is some sprinklers in here that we located that we're gonna have to cap off. This concrete came out pretty easy. There's no reinforcement in it. And then the way they did the brick ribbon was everything was a cold joint. All these sections were independent of one another. As you can see, I'm just lifting it up, letting it drop, and it's just shattering. At least that's the hopes, that you can lift it and then it shatters. A lot of times what I like to do is lift a chunk up in the air, throw a small piece underneath, and then let it drop on that, and then it usually always breaks. That's how you can save yourself from using a sledgehammer or a jackhammer. You can see all the drain lines that are in there. We're going to get rid of those completely, and we're just going to drain it naturally. Also, they had irrigation lines into those raised planters. That's all abandoned as well. We did find a little bit of roots. There was a big tree in the common area. And this is an HOA, so that's a homeowners association, and they do the maintenance on everything outside of the patio and house. The tree caused some problems with this concrete actually lifting it. So the tree came out, then I came in, removed everything. And then you can see that it did hit some roots here and there. These are the brick ribbons, the forming of the brick ribbons and where they're going to go. We're going to have a brick ribbon on the outside edge of the concrete and also one each way through the middle. The lumber we're going to be using, we're using 2x4s for the outside perimeter. And then we're going to use 2x2s for the recessed areas of the brick. We're not using full-size bricks because they wouldn't fit using a 2x2. So we're using split bricks. I think they're about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. So those 2x2s just barely give you enough room for a little thin set underneath them. This is some number 3 rebar, 2-foot centers, both directions. And the way I formed those ribbons up is I pulled one line on each side of the ribbon, set that 2x2 straight. Then I just measured over and then nailed some cleats on top. So if I got one side straight and they're parallel with each other, then now they're both straight. Also, the ribbons in the middle have become my drainage plan for this whole backyard. In other words, my 2 ribbons going towards the house run towards that center ribbon, and that creates a valley coming out. So if the water drains to the ribbons, it'll just funnel right on out. Concrete has arrived. No, head in that way, I guess. Oh, yeah, you can head in straight. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Put your rear end right here. Yeah. Let's pull these in for now. Well, actually, they're pretty good right there. Huh? These might be good there, huh? We could move those this way, actually. So the nice thing about it, they had been doing some street work, and they had left some signs out there. We were able to leave the concrete truck and the pump on the main street without having to go through the drive up onto the driveway and take a chance of it cracking or blocking other people from getting in and out of the driveway. Also, it was a much shorter run coming from the street. You can see all the stucco damage here, and that's because when we removed the concrete, it was actually poured higher than the floor of the house, and it was wrapped around the weep screed. So when we pulled the concrete out, it all came out together: weep screed, stucco, the whole works. There wasn't much of a weep screed left. Those are galvanized steel, and it was so corroded that it came out in just bits and pieces. So what we did is we lowered the level of this whole patio, and then we gave it some positive slope away from the building. And now it's going to drain naturally without any chance of drains clogging. You notice I got that 4x4. That's the 4x4 post. I also used it to support the pump hose. If you drop that pump hose on a 2x2 suspended in the air, it's going to disturb it. So we have to prop stuff up to hold the hose. And you could have a guy standing at each ribbon holding it up, but then you got a lot more people than you really need. We initially laid this down with a 3-foot wide wood ball float, and then we just let it get hard, just let it lay there for a while. And now I'm hitting it with the funny float. And this mix design is a good one. They gave me what I ordered, and this is all cement, no fly ash, and it's about a 3250, also known as a city mix, because they don't cities don't counties they don't want fly ash either. So that's what I got. I actually got what I ordered on this particular load. Now here's the recessed areas, and this is what you're going to want to do if you ever do a pour like this. You want to make sure you clean up those areas. That way, you can, one, you can get your forms out. Two, it's low enough so that you can get your bricks in without having to grind or chip it down. So it's a little more detail, a little more work to do during the pour when you have this kind of a setup, but the end results are much better. Now, after we've already funny floated all this, now I'm using the funny trowel, kind of smooth it out. I am putting a radius on all those brick ribbons where they're going to go, half-inch radius. So what that means is that it's because we didn't set, some people like to set the bricks first and then pour the concrete against the brick, which I don't really like that system. I like this system better. Since I have an edge now on where the brick's gonna go, I'll also put an edge on the grout around the brick, so we'll have a matching edge on the brick and then on the concrete. And because I'm using the ribbons as a drainage area as well, those little details are gonna help channel the water where I want it to go. Now I'm just using a wood hand float, kind of straightening it out really good. Because I've already checked this with a level as I'm going out here. I always like, when I get out on boards, when I get into a corner, I like to drop a level on it just to ensure that it is draining away from those corners. So I'm using a 1/2 inch edger here on the outside edge. There's not going to be any brick on this outside edge because we're just up against the fence. But I'm also using the 1/2 inch edger along the brick ribbons as well. And whenever you put an edge and you're putting brick in there, you should edge your mortar as well. Because if you roll that mortar over that 1/2 inch edge, it'll just crack off eventually. So you put a double edge both sides. And you'll see that as you start laying the brick in a little more detail how that works. Here it is, world famous horsehair broom. This is when you know you're getting close to finishing the process of putting your concrete down and getting your final finish on here. I've gotten all the wood stakes out of the ribbon so I won't have to break those off later. There was one, you can see right here on the left, there's two that I just kind of missed them. I ended up having to break those off the next day for brick ribbon, but for the most part, I got them all out. There were just two left over. Somehow I missed those. No biggie, because it's wood, so you can break them. If it was steel stakes, you have to get a metal cut-off saw then. So this drainage works on this from right to left, right down that middle ribbon. Everything goes towards that. So natural drainage is, if you can do it, that's always the best bet. There's some situations where you're not going to be able to get away with some natural drainage, but that's always the first thing you want to consider. We've got fiberglass sliders out there, and we've got steel sliders going. I personally like the fiberglass sliders myself, always have. Here's the homeowner coming out, checking on our work. He's loving it. He's going to love it more once the brick ribbon goes in there. So right now I'm laying out the brick. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to start from the middle out. Here's some of the mixture I'm going to use. I'm going to use thin set. I'm using a full bag of thin set to a full bag of mortar. That way it's nice and sticky. It'll stick really well to the brick. Makes a really good base. And I'd have just enough space to get some thin set. If that was 100% mortar, it wouldn't work that well in this situation because it's pretty thin. So by mixing them, I get the best of both worlds. Something that sticks really well to the brick, and it lays down nicely. Notice how I started from the middle, worked my way out, so the cuts will be on the ends, and the middle will come together beautifully at this intersection. You don't really need a level when you're laying bricks and you're meeting two sides of an existing, like in this situation. All you need is a straight edge to go from point A to point B and make the brick straight, and flush with both sides. So you can see here, I've just got a little metal 2-foot screed, and I'm just banging them down flush to top of concrete, basically. Also, you'll want to run your straight edge this direction as well, because your concrete may not be perfectly straight, but at least you can get your brick straight, and the mortar will hide any defects in the concrete. So once I get these all laid down, stuck in place, then I'm ready to start grouting. These brick right here are just your new common red brick. Now, if they were flashed or manufacturer used or something like that, you'd see some white on them, or maybe even some black in there. When you set the brick independently from the concrete, they have a tendency to move independently from one another. So you'll get bricks slipping away from the edge, mortar starting to fail a lot quicker than you would, if you're using this particular system. Everything's setting on the same piece of concrete, all monolithically poured. So you don't have anything shifting independently from when it all moves together. There's your 14-inch steel cutoff saw. Just slip cutting those like butter. It's nice to have a wet saw, but if you're doing a couple cuts, I say just go for it and get it done. Now, if I was cutting a couple hundred bricks, you can guarantee I'd break out my wet saw. So now that we have the excess mortar material from setting the brick, I can go ahead and patch up this stucco. On that stucco, I put some bonding agent in there as well. Also mixed it with the mortar itself. Now here's the grouting technique. I'm using a grout bag on this one. That way the cleanup is minimal. Now you could just dump it on there and spread it around and it'll fall in the cracks, but you got a lot of sponging to do in that situation. So if you use a grout bag, you can just go ahead and put it where you want it. And that's what we're doing here. It's just going in the cracks. Also, I'm going to run an edge on this grout on the outside edge because I have an edge on the concrete. So I'm going to edge the brick as well, which is going to be beneficial in a few different ways. One way is that when the concrete decides to crack and it cracks down one of these sides of the ribbon, which it will inevitably because it is a little bit thinner there, we have a transition there. it'll crack within that radius point. Now, if I just ran the mortar over that edge, what'll happen when it does move is that mortar's just going to pop off the top, and then you have an ugly looking edge there. So by edging it, you're going to save that detail. And then also, because I'm using my ribbons as my drainage points to get the water out of this yard, it's going to help channel the water as well. Now this is the very next day as well. And you can see that the concrete is almost bleached out. And that's because we got a good mix. I've got 2 sponges going here. I got a bucket with clean water, for a final. Then I have another bucket just for the original. Now this is the day after we've laid the brick. And what I'm doing now, I've got some muriatic acid in my pump up spray bottle. And I've diluted it down to about 10-to-1, so it's not real strong. You could put your hand in there and not know it, in other words. Unless you left it in there for a while, then you'd see you'd have a problem. But just a quick dab here and there is not going to hurt too badly at 10-to-1 ratio. So the acid, what that does, it gets any residuals of the mortar off the brick, so you got a very clean brick. So that's what I did there. We cleaned the brick, got it sparkling clean, just like new, and then pressure washed. And that's what we're doing over here. You can see the common driveway here. And you can see how the trees have raised all that concrete up as well. But here's your finished product. It's looking really good. We got 2 posts where the fence will be built to. Those posts will be cut off flush, of course. And a gate installed. But you can see how the water is funneling towards that brick ribbon, and then it runs off. As far as the stucco goes, we have to let that cure out. The homeowner's going to paint that himself, actually. But it turned out beautiful, and they're really happy with it. We can give away 1 pair of rock roosters to a lucky subscriber. And anyone out there that wants to get into this particular drawing, just let me know. Then you can go directly to their website, look at the boots, which ones you want, and then let me know what it is, and then I'll tell Rock Rooster to mail it out to you once they get your address and stuff. Also, we're going to do another pair giveaway on the Instagram page as well, so, get 2 chances, 2 locations. Anyway, thanks for watching, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button. That way you'll be notified as soon as we upload the next video.